I'm mindful of the time, so let me jump right in. I also was asked to speak about leadership, and it's been such a huge blessing, gift, unexpected pleasure to be able to work at Valencia and in Orlando. I will tell you plainly, as a guy raised in North Carolina, that neither Texas nor Florida were in the top 48 states that I thought I'd want to live in someday. And I've been a college president in both of them and fell in love with both. If I could spend my time between the incredible romance of Texas, which is the strangest place on the planet, and the enduring community of Florida, where everybody is a native. I just don't know if anything could be better than that. One of the signs of a healthy organization is that there are many leaders, and there are many at Valencia, and a couple of three of them are here tonight. Kelly Astro's here. Kelly, I'm so proud of you. Brian Hinties is here, and we are Brian somewhere in the back. He always finds a corner to hide in. But glad to work at Valencia because there are dozens and dozens of people who I think are just astonishing leaders, from whom I learn and with whom I get to plot and scheme about what difference we can make in our community every day. I have 3 points to make with you. Usually I think the old Presbyterian formula is 3 points and a poem. I've got 3 poems and a point. So this is who I am, and so I'm going to share 3 poems with you. So I preface this by saying there's no privilege quite as amazing as leading an organization that does good, manifests good that everybody recognizes, and no riskier occupation either. The greatest and the most frightening leaders I've met led nonprofits. So here's the first poem. This comes from the Zen tradition, and so it's very short. So listen carefully. Why are you so unhappy? Why are you so unhappy? Because 99.99% of what you do and everything you say is about yourself, and there isn't one. In the Zen tradition, the self is to be annihilated. You may or may not agree with the Zen anthropology, but here's the point. In the nonprofit world, there are many leaders whose egos have long since been annihilated. And there are many who are there because their ego is the center of their mission. And it's hard to know. When I was a young man, I worked for a governor in North Carolina, a wonderful governor named Jim Hunt. I stumbled into the job. He was a progressive, amazing guy. And I got to travel with him a lot and hear him tell stories and do his work. Learned a lot from him. He used to tell this story about the worst winter we ever had in North Carolina. And there were really 2 stories embedded in this. The first I'll tell because it's irrelevant. The second I'll tell because it's on the point. I just love the first one anyway. So terrible blizzards, and way up in the mountains, people have been buried in snow for weeks and weeks and weeks. And we're not really equipped for that in North Carolina. We're used to the 4-day snow, and then everything clears up and you're okay. So the National Guard is dropping hay to cows, and they're evacuating people and so on. And the governor, needing some press time, gets on the gubernatorial helicopter and takes his team, and off they go to western North Carolina. And they land in one of those mountain coves, and they trudge up the hillside through heavy snow to an old cabin where there's a little smoke coming out of the top of the cabin. They bang on the door, and some people call from inside, "Who is it?" He says, "Well, we're here from the Red Cross." There's a long pause, and they say, well, we'd like to help out, but things have been tough here too. Communication, you know. Mike, you understand this. I get your emails. It's communication. The better story, the one that's really on point, is later in that same crisis, he's meeting with a group of the Mountaineers. I think they're in West Jefferson, North Carolina, way up in the hills. There are a bunch of folks there, and he's given some sleek speech, and everybody's done their thing and so on. And afterwards, he's shaking hands, and this old toothless mountaineer comes up to him and he says, you from Raleigh, ain't you? State capital. He says, well, yes, I am. He says, you got a lot of people working for you down there, ain't you? And he said, yes, I do. A lot of people. He says, some of them pretty smart, ain't they? He said, yeah, we've got some very smart people on our team. He says, some of them ain't so smart too, ain't they? He said, well, I suppose that's true. And the guy grins real big and says, kind of hard to tell the difference, ain't it? Kind of hard to tell the difference, ain't it? You see, the passion that you see in people's work, particularly in the nonprofit world, might be other-directed or might be self-directed, and it's damn hard to tell. And the most important person to know is you. To test your motivation. Because authentic leadership cannot come from self. Can't. You'll be found out eventually. You may do untold damage in the process. The most punishing leaders I've known could talk the talk for years on end, and their boards believed them, and their staffs knew better. Yeah, so point number one, there isn't one. If you're serious about leadership, there isn't a self in it. And if you find yourself doing all those little things that suggest, I need, you need to step back. Point number two. Sometimes, if you walk through the forest softly, breathing softly, like the ones in the old stories who could cross a shimmering bed of dry leaves without a sound, you come to a place whose only purpose is to trouble you with tiny but frightening requests. Requests coming from nowhere, but in this place leading everywhere. Requests to stop what you are doing right now and to stop what you are becoming while you do it. Questions that can make or unmake a life. Questions that have no right to go away. I think I just butchered that poem, but nevertheless. What you do every day, the work you do, shapes who you are more powerfully than you shape it. You are becoming someone while you do it. And the tools you use every day deeply shape who you are becoming. You're turning into someone. We think we're in control. We think we're in charge. We think we're captaining the ship. It's a delusion. You are turning into someone. And most people wake up someday to discover it was someone they never wanted to be. And the more morally charged your work, the more powerful the deformation of your character. This is why the falls from grace are most obvious in certain areas of endeavor. They're most spectacular. if you're doing something you care deeply about, you're in danger. Because what you do is shaping you. And there's only one way, one solution to that risk. And unfortunately, for those of us in nonprofit work, it's hard to get to. Because we, more than others, feel the tyranny of the urgent. You see, your first work as a leader, especially a leader of a cause, your first work, the work you must not neglect, the work you must do every day, is your interior work. Your interior work. If that's not done, then your interior life is being shaped by your exterior work. And it's meant to be the other way around. If you do your work every day, if you find your workshop, and everyone has one, if you find your workshop and bring the raw material of your exterior work into your interior workshop and deal with it. How do you deal with it? You ask yourself and you answer yourself honestly the questions we don't want to answer. Why am I envious? Why am I angry? Why am I jealous? Why am I lustful? Why am I needy? All the things we are, deep down inside, that our work reveals to us. I never attend a staff meeting, especially my own, without learning how broken I am. And you bring that into your interior workshop and you deal with it. You tell yourself the truth. And over time, as you discover your own voice and you learn the capacity of telling yourself the truth, your exterior work becomes an extension of your interior work, so that what you do in the world is an expression of who you're choosing to become, slowly and painfully. That's what authenticity means. It's about integrity. Integrity is a botanical term. It means connectedness, integuments. The connectedness of what's happening in here and what's happening out there. And in our world, most blessed of all leaders, once you've connected your interior work to your exterior work, you have the possibility of connecting it to a great work, a work that matters in the world. Nothing's more amazing than that. What a blessing. What a gift. So there's huge risk and huge reward. And if you are not doing your interior work, you're in trouble. The more competent you become, the more dangerous you become. How do you do it? I don't know. It's up to you to figure out. We're all given the capacities to do this. Most just neglect it. Some do it on long walks. Some do it on their knees. Some do it laying next to a partner late at night. I do it in a journal. I got dozens and scores of journals full of bullshit that I needed to write in order to understand myself. And I go back and read that stuff and go, oh my God. They all have a label that says, burn upon death. You do your work. Third point. This, I'll only say a fragment of this poem. This is the poem around which I constructed my life. You don't have to, but this was important. I can only tell you my story. I can't tell you your story. So when I was a teenager, I read this poem by Robert Frost. It's not the one you memorized. It's another one. This one's called Two Tramps at Mud Time. Anybody know this poem? It's quite a poem. Frost was an immensely indoorsy guy, but he did his best work outdoors. That's why so many of his poems are outdoorsy poems. He was not an outdoorsy guy. But he did a lot of his writing. Remember, he was based in Boston, My grandmother was actually a student of his. But he did a lot of his writing at a cabin up in the Berkshire Mountains in western Massachusetts, not far from Beckett, Massachusetts. So he's up there one winter and he's writing and he's writing and he's writing. He's doing the work he's made to do. But even the work you're made to do can be exhausting. And he's written all he's got to write and he's sick of it. You ever feel that way? This is your work. You were meant to do it, but by God, you can't do any more now. It's important to know when you reach that point, because what you do after that point is usually bad. Okay? And he says, I got to get out of it. I'm going back to Boston. I'm going to drink tea and maybe whiskey and meet my friends and get recharged. Except overnight, there's a thaw, an unexpected thaw. And in his day, when there was a thaw in western Massachusetts, all the dirt roads turned to a quagmire. And you couldn't travel because the narrow wheels, wooden wheels on the carriages would just bog down. So wherever you were, you just had to stay. They called it mud time. Mud time was stay wherever you are time and wait until it either refreezes or it dries out. Then you could travel. So now he's stuck. And the last thing he wants to do is write his calling. So instead, he decides, I'll chop some firewood. After all, I've got a great manicure. Out he goes. And he's very bad at chopping wood. It's clear he's an indoorsy guy. And while he's chopping wood badly, two hobos, who probably spent the night in his barn, walk out on the road and they perch themselves on the fence posts. And they're watching him, and he knows they're judging his bad wood chopping because they make their breakfast every morning. They're experts, right? And he has this conversation in his head about them. And he feels badly about his work. And then in the last stanza, he pushes back and he says this. And what he's saying is, this is work I need to do too. He says, but yield who will to their separation. My object in living is to unite my avocation and my vocation. Does that sound familiar? Yeah. Yield who will to their separation. My object in living is to unite my avocation and my vocation as my two eyes make one in sight. For only when love and need are one, and work is play for mortal stakes, is a deed ever really done for heaven or the future's sake. Yield who will to their separation. My object in living is to unite my avocation and my vocation as my two eyes make one in sight. For only when love and need are one and work is play for mortal stakes is a deed ever really done for heaven or the future's sake. As leaders, this is the paradox we live. Avocation and vocation, right? A deep sense of obligation and duty and joy in the work, right? They're both important, right? Work that's play. It should be playful and fun. How many nonprofit people do you know that are just a bummer to be around? Work that's play, but for mortal stakes. It matters what happens, right? To me, at that time in my life, 16, 17, what this said was, some people lived their lives, all the adults I knew lived their lives in silos. Work life, family life, recreational life, if they had one, artistic life. I don't know how many lives they had. Financial life, I don't know. And they weren't the same person from silo to silo to silo. And of course, at 17, it's easy to judge that because you can spot hypocrisy from 50,000 feet at age 17 everywhere, except in a mirror. And I saw it, and I thought, I don't want to live that way. I love my parents. I don't want to live like them. I love these other people. I don't want to live like them. I felt a call on my life to live whole, one fabric, all threads, all the time. Right? That's a big calling. It's a hard calling. To be yourself all the time. Not to be separate selves. And I share this poem with you because I believe the work we do, because it's about others, challenges us to be ourselves all the time. When you walk into a legislator's office, who are you going to be? Yourself or somebody you think they need to see? When you collaborate with others in the community, who are you going to be? Yourself with all your vulnerabilities, your weaknesses, everything? All your life? Or a persona you've constructed for the job you have to do? You can be effective for a while in that acting role, but it costs you so much. And you can't endure it in it for long. You just can't. I've been at Valencia for 18 years. People say, how in the world? No president last 18 years said, I'm a youngster. Look at John. John's himself. He's always John. You want to be a marathoner, the long distance runner, the person who endures over the long arc of effort. You can't play a role. You have to be all of yourself all the time. 3 ideas, just 3. There are probably 300 that could be shared. 3. It's not about you. Don't let it be about you. If it's becoming about you, step back before it's too late. Right? That's item 1. What was item 2? Was anyone listening? Interior work. Do your interior work every day. And item 3, be all of yourself all the time. You'll be amazing to you, even with all your flaws, how winsome that kind of leadership is. People want to follow another human being, not an actor. Yeah? Many of you are further along this path than I am. I'm right behind you. I'm learning from you. Some of you are just getting started. Hang in there.